In 1976, NASA's Viking orbiter captured an image of a Martian region called Cydonia. Staring unblinkingly back from the alien dirt was a rock formation, a full kilometer across, shaped exactly like a human face. Almost immediately, the photograph triggered rampant speculation. Amateur analysts and tabloids deduced that this was a monumental sculpture left by a 50,000-year-old Martian civilization, perhaps the survivors of an ancient interplanetary war. Soon, headlines proclaimed the discovery of ruined temples and sprawling cities nearby. When NASA officials dismissed the feature as a trick of light and shadow, they were accused of executing a massive government cover-up to hide the discovery of the millennium. Mars is a dead, dry rock, battered by meteorites and scraped by fierce winds over hundreds of millions of years. So why would the aftermath of random, chaotic geological violence produce an expression so recognizably human? Long before we had spacecraft, humans looked up at the moon and mentally connected its bright, cratered highlands and dark, ancient lava flows to form the man in the moon. By the late 19th century, professional astronomers peering through telescopes mapped networks of straight, intersecting lines crisscrossing the Martian deserts. They attributed these features to an older society trying to conserve water through global canal systems. These observers were pushing early optics to the absolute limit of resolution. They were trying to hold on to fleeting memories of the surface during the very brief instance when the turbulent Earth atmosphere would briefly clear. Even analyzing data from modern probes, we continually find familiar shapes. Geologists have reported rough portraits of Joseph Stalin on Venus, Bugs Bunny on a moon of Uranus, and even a smiling happy face sitting inside a Martian crater. The cosmos seems suspiciously littered with our own cultural touchstones. We have to ask whether these forms are messages from the stars, or if we are simply misinterpreting a glitch in our own perception. To understand what is happening, we have to look away from deep space and look closely at human biology. 1 million years ago, a hominid infant was born into a hostile environment where parental care was an absolute requirement for survival. That infant needed to quickly forge a deep emotional bond with its caregivers. The primary way to secure that protection and food was to recognize the parent and respond. Because of this, the skill of identifying faces is hardwired into our brains from birth. An infant spots the familiar arrangement of eyes and a mouth, smiling back to win the affection of the parent and strengthen that bond. Those early humans who lacked this pattern recognition machinery smiled less and were less likely to win the hearts of their caregivers. They were far less likely to prosper, survive, and pass on their genetic lines. Through the brutal filter of natural selection, we evolved into a species that instinctively and aggressively extracts facial features from the clutter of our surroundings. This biological side effect is called pareidolia. Our pattern recognition software is so efficient that it often misfires, unconsciously assembling disconnected patches of light and shadow into human profiles where none exist. We see this constantly on Earth. Geological formations like the Old Man of the Mountain in New Hampshire look remarkably human from a distance, even though they are purely the result of rock collapse and natural erosion. When we apply this biological filter to the 1976 Mars photo, the mystery unravels. That image was taken from orbit, at low resolution, with the sun casting long, deep shadows over the terrain. This diagram shows how limited data and high-contrast shadows artificially construct familiar facial features. Our visual cortex fills in the blanks. But when later missions mapped the exact same area with higher resolution cameras, the illusion vanished. The shadows lifted, revealing a perfectly ordinary, eroded hill. The aliens we saw in the solar system were never really out there. They were merely the reflection of our own ancient survival instincts, projected into the blurry margins of our technology. We hold on to these myths because they offer a thrilling escape. We want to be jolted out of our daily routines and find evidence that we aren't completely alone in the cold void of space. That deep psychological craving has fueled a highly lucrative industry, the tabloid media, which bypasses scientific rigor entirely to manufacture modern miracles on a weekly basis. You can find these claims packaged at nearly every grocery store and convenience store checkout aisle, churning out an endless supply of fabricated mysteries. These publications often take real scientific concerns, like the actual threat of asteroid impacts, and bury them in fabrications about non-existent rocks like M167 and imaginary government cover-ups. By drowning real science in apocalyptic whimsy, they make it impossible for a layperson to distinguish a genuine threat from a tabloid lie. We often dismiss this as harmless fun, but it carries a significant cost. When fiction is dressed in the language of science, the public loses its ability to identify real perils. This confusion degrades our capacity to recognize and prepare for the genuine, long-term statistical risks our planet actually faces. Scientific skepticism isn't meant to destroy wonder. It is simply the explorer's most essential safeguard against the talent we have for deceiving ourselves. The actual universe is already staggeringly beautiful and terrifying. From the massive impact scars on Jupiter to turbulent gas clouds larger than our entire solar system, the truth easily outpaces our inventions. The surface of Mars is actively being carved by relentless physical forces, like planet-wide dust storms carrying abrasive sand at half the speed of sound, endlessly sculpting rock over eons. We don't need to invent alien pharaohs in the dirt to feel a profound sense of awe. There are wonders enough out there without our inventing any. The universe is filled with genuine mysteries. But if we are ever going to clearly see what is actually out there, we first have to learn to look past the comforting reflection of our own faces.